So it's interesting that you say that you don't believe in disruptions from within. I take you back to a few years ago when the roster was similarly debated within, and we had an unprecedented image of a press conference being addressed by judges of the Supreme Court. There are the images. Very different response from the kind you're suggesting today. What did you think of this moment? What did you think of this particular press conference by Supreme Court judges?
Well, they did what they thought was right, but I don't believe it achieved anything very much. There's no change. Some of them there subsequently became chief justices. The system has continued. So I believe that if there is a challenge or some difference of perception, this must be sorted out within the system. That's how an institution works. It's true of any institution.
Would you have gone for such a press conference?
Personally, no. I wouldn't do it.
Justice Gogoi, who went on to be the Chief Justice, also went on to become a member of Parliament. What sort of signal do you think that sends? And if someone made a similar offer to you, what would you say?
So that was his call. He believed that this was an honor being conferred, and he took it that way. I as an individual would not take it. That's different, but that's perception which matters. I'm not wanting to take anything. That is my decision. Whether somebody else wants to take something or not, that is his decision.
But aren't there larger issues?
The difference of perception will always occur on these things.
I agree, and it's very personal, but there are also larger issues, because the moment a judge is offered, and this has happened to other constitutional bodies also. We've had election commissioners, chief election commissioners joining government in other, so it's not about this government or that government. This has happened on all governments. But personally, when you say, personally, I would not become a member of Parliament, there is a message, right? Somebody can look at a judge and say, okay, this judge is now an MP. Maybe he or she was always close to so-and-so government. I mean, what kind of message do you think it sends out?
So when people come through a judicial system and have reached a particular position, you must have some trust in those people to take a call. I think we are becoming, as a society, let's not become doubting on everything. If you start doubting everything, nothing will work. Let's look at a positive side also. It's like news, dog bite, man bite dog situation. There are many positive news also which arise, which is not. So what the judiciary does positively is often not given enough focus, I think. But it faces criticism, which is fine. As an institution, you are bound to face criticism. I don't think whether a person in his judicial career, what he decides is going to be influenced by the possibility that he may be offered something, he may accept something. Nobody knows at that point of time whether such an offer would come or what would happen. These all occur at a subsequent stage of time. Now, the other is a concept that should one, having occupied that position, at all accept it, is bound to have some individual discretion in this decision. So it's not just for the sake of it I say this. So
fair enough, but let's come back to the kind of tension, as it were, between governments, and I say governments in plural, and the courts. A certain amount of it is inevitable. But we have seen a kind of public calling out, at least by the former law minister of the collegium. We have seen, as I mentioned earlier, judges who have been recommended, their files just gathering dust, like Saurabh Kirpal. We have recently seen the government move a law that basically changes a Supreme Court judgment on how election commissioners, who should be on the panel that chooses election commissioners. The Chief Justice has been removed. Do you believe that there is more tension today between the government and the courts, or is this how it's always been?
No, whenever there have been, let's see, there is a turf, and there's a little bit of turf war will always remain. With coalition governments, the judiciary has been able to push more. With strong governments, it has been less so. They feel they've come with a mandate, and therefore, but then you have to recognize that the court is, in an institution under the Constitution, it has been given a role. That role is to provide a check and balance. When I said it doesn't provide a role of an opposition, it means that there are certain battles which must be fought in the political domain, and certain matters which have a legal ramification, which the court. So these little bit of tensions always remain. I recollect Justice Sabharwal, whom I knew as the Chief Justice of the country, used to at times say that, if there is a mild undercurrent of tension, that's good for the system, because each is working in his own. If these things are too hunky-dory, then there is a problem. So let's look at it
How,
that way.
how would you describe the last few years?
Well, these last few years have been time period when there has been a little up and down, certainly, in the equation. That is arising because after almost many years, such a uh, government with such a large mandate came into being. So their perception will be different from a coalition government, which is dependent on many factors for its survival. So I was anticipating a little push when a majority government came. They have stayed for a long period of time, and they have their own perceptions as to what that mandate envisages. But I envisage the role of the judiciary certainly as a check and balance in anything, not to uphold the government view, not to be an instrument of the opposition, but to make its own call on legal issues, leaving the political debate minus the legal principles to a different forum where it must take place.